Remote Server Administration Tools, or RSAT, is a method of allowing you to, let's see, we have someone. I guess Robert dropped and then rejoined. Is that what happened? No.
Yeah, I was stuck on the screen loading.
Okay. Okay, so basically you have to, RSAT, or Remote Server Administration Tools, provides you with an option to use Server Manager, and then once you get inside Server Manager, you can use other Microsoft Management Console tools. You have to work a lot of commands and firewall changes. That's particularly thorny. Some of you have experienced the same kinds of, well, extra headaches, and essentially what's happened is that as hackers and system security becomes more important, vendors like Microsoft are trying to find ways to make it harder for people who don't belong on a system to make changes to the system. And unfortunately, that also makes some of the features and functionality inaccessible or less accessible, as the case may be. And what we have now, though, is a case where Microsoft is promoting the standard version of the server to be a character-based server, much like Linux. And as you know, working in a character-based environment is a real headache at times, right? I mean, you have to know PowerShell, you have to know command shell prompts, you have to be able to basically navigate a complex series of options. And what they're trying to do is make it harder for people who get on resource systems that are designed to provide resources. When a hacker gets on there, they, if they don't know the same kind if they don't have the same kind of information, if they're not up to speed with the new management methods, they're not going to be as effective hacking these things. But as you already know, trying to get RSAT up and running is a royal pain in the neck. If you haven't updated Windows 10, essentially the last couple of updates that played out resolved a lot of dysfunction. And what I wanted to do was to walk quickly through the process that I used to set up for Windows Admin Center, so you could see it and see how it works. But then as I was capturing each of the steps and the methods this morning, lo and behold, Microsoft came out with a whole new version of Windows Admin Center. And one of the steps that you'll see, you'll appreciate why that's important. Let's go back to where we were last Thursday. So one of the first things I told you is that you want to make sure you have a good copy of the Windows Admin Center. Sometimes these things don't work because you get a bad download, it's corrupted. You want to make sure that the hashes match. And when I post the solution criteria, I'm going to include this screenshot so that you can see the hash. I'm actually going to replace it with the 2103 MSI that you're going to see in just a minute. But basically, let's do it this way. Can everybody still see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you download Windows Admin Center, from the main website, the primary website, it's still the it's still the old version, right? It's still the 2009 version. And as soon as you finish installing this and going through all the updates and running extension updates, a link pops up at the top and says, hey, 2103 is 2103 is available, and then it takes you to a second login. We're going to test this live to make sure it's not a headache, and if it proves to be much easier to install and set up, then that's what we'll use for our solution. In the meantime, I want to show you what we went through to get 2009 set up and some of the things you can do with it. So, whoops. Yeah, so we're right here now. When you install this thing, it's going to extract some additional software from portal sites out on the internet. And it's going to tell you basically that here in the fine print, it's going to say, hey, you'll see an icon in the notification area of your desktop. And if you right-click this, choose Open to start. So this is the first time where the website on how to install this actually tracked with what happened. So I was ecstatic this morning because I saw this and it said, just determine your installation type, and I'm going to install it on Windows 10, and it says, hey, watch out for this. So this is running, and then lo and behold, here's the little icon in the start. It's the system tray, right? Or if you hit this up arrow and you hold your pointer over here, it says Windows Admin Center, and you can actually right click and then open it. Once you do, it's going to ask you to go ahead and choose this. And it turns out that there's quite a bit of headache associated with the certificate that's created this tool uses. But it's telling you to select the Windows Admin Center client. And that's important. So when it first comes up, it's going to prompt you for which credential to use. And you don't need to use your own credential. You need to use the one that says Windows Admin Center client. You may see a list of one or more certificates. You want to pick the one that comes up that says Windows Admin Center client. The whole time you're doing this, you want your virtual machine to be running. And you should have configured the network in bridged mode so that it gets its own IP address, right? So your setup should look like this. You have a local work group that's something other than work group. You have a plain computer name. You set that computer name up in the hosts file. Does everybody remember the hosts file? Does everyone remember the hosts file?
Yeah, we created a separate directory.
We created something that works like DNS. We went into the C drive, into the Windows folder, into the System32 folder, into the drivers folder, into the etc folder, etc folder, opened this file running Notepad as admin. We opened up hosts, and we created an entry with the server name and the IP address. If you're in bridged mode on your virtual machine, that address should stay relatively consistent, but you want to check this before you start the Windows Admin Center installation. And going forward, we don't want people banging their heads, on their screens. we want everyone to get this graphical interface set up so that you can basically work with your virtual machines and your operating systems, you know, in a sensible and efficient manner. But sometimes there are tricks that you have to use to prime the pump. And this is really important. You want to go to your command prompt after you do this. You want to flush the DNS by using a command called ipconfig flush DNS. That's this command followed by a space / flush DNS. And then you want to just issue the plain command and it'll tell you what your IP address is on your laptop. You're going to go to your virtual machine and reference the network settings, option number 8, and then you're going to ping it from your laptop. So I'm sitting on 115. I pinged 116, and so I know my server's there, it's connected, I've got a working address, and that's important before you continue with the rest of the installation with Windows Admin Center. In fact, I'd say get this done up front so that it's sitting there, because you want to point this thing right at the server as soon as you're finished. Any questions so far?
Yeah, when I tried to run the when I tried to run the Windows Admin Center, it tells me that I don't have the permissions.
Right. Yeah, I ran into that same garbage. And let me tell you what I did that helped with that. So each of you have software to install your virtual machines, right? And you got that off the website, the campus website under Microsoft Downloads, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that I found I had to do to prime the pump was I had to go into accounts. And then I had to go into email and accounts. And if you do not already have your school account, your UVI account listed, you want to click add an account, and then you want to put in your email address, right? Which would be whatever your email address is at the school at live.uvi.edu. In your case, it might be students, right?
Okay.
live.students.uvi.edu, and you put this in here, and it's going to ask you, it'll ask you to authenticate. So you're going to sign in. When you sign in, you're going to put in your 9000 number. But having this on your system is important. The other thing that you're doing too is I'm logged in on my administrative account, right? So I'm using my admin account locally. I'm doing that because I'm installing the Windows Admin Center. I'm installing software, but I'm also changing the accounts here. And you might have to reboot and then run an update or something for this to take effect. But I found that helped. That was part of the missing piece. But thank you for bringing that up. And what I'm going to do before I forget, though, is I'm going to open the module notes, and I'm going to paste this link in the chat right now, okay? So I want everybody to get this right now, because this is what I want you to use for your Windows Admin Center. If you haven't installed it, if it isn't up and running and working yet, this is the link I want you to use. Wait a minute. That's supposed to be a link. Yeah, it is a link. I want to copy the link though. That's what I want in the chat. Sorry. Let me try that again. There we go. everybody see that in chat?
Yes.
Now, you're going to want to start downloading that. Don't delete the old one. We're going to try the new one together. You're going to find out in just a minute why that's so important. All right, so go ahead and you select the Windows Admin Center client. If it says you don't have permissions and you need to set up a profile, if you do this first and then use this profile for the setup it prompts you to complete, then that got rid of the issue that came up for me. I had the same challenge. Now here's the fun part. If you're on when this thing first comes up, it's going to show you your own PC. That's all that's there. And you need to change your default browser. This is the other thing that I find incredibly irritating. I don't think Chrome or Firefox work. I don't think other browsers work. I think the only thing that works with the Windows Admin Center is Microsoft's Edge browser. Let me say that again. I find it incredibly irritating, but it seems like they've reverse engineered this. So if you want to use it using Edge, they really want people to buy in. They want people to drink the company Kool-Aid, right? And it's this thing that caught my eye. It's not until after I did all the rest of the stuff, it's like, what? There's an update available? I just downloaded this. 2 days ago, I just downloaded this sucker. I just got it running, right? And there's an update already available. When you click this link, it takes you to that 2103 option that I just pasted in the chat. But it gets better. So you've done this, you know it's working, and you know that you have a host. You have a host name that works. So if I want to ping standard server, I don't have to use the IP address. I can do this, and my system knows that it's 116. There's no DNS that tells me that address, but the hosts file does. So when you click add, because you want to add your server, you're going to type the name of your server in here and you're going to wait. This is counterintuitive, but you're going to wait for it. So when you first type it in, it's going to be sitting there. You're not going to see a green check mark. You're going to be sitting there, and then suddenly a little wheel is going to start spinning. And if your host file is working properly and you're communicating with your server because it's running right, all of a sudden it'll say found STD SRV. Once you get the green check mark, not before, you're going to say add. Once you have the green check mark, then you can click add. If you click add before that, it's going to look and it's not going to find it. But if you hold and wait until it says, oh, I found, then it works. Go figure. I think that may be what the new update resolves. In any case, one of the things that I want you to see here is that you're logged in on the local machine running Windows Admin Center. That's the name of my laptop, and that's the login that I'm using on my laptop. And that's the account that's working there. Can everybody see manage as?
Yes.
Okay, that's going to be the clue or the key to making this thing work.
Okay.
Once you add the server, you're going to click manage as, and you're going to change the credentials to the server name and the server account. You're going to give it a password. You're going to have an option to select enable, and then it'll connect and it'll show the server name and it'll say managing as standard server / spare. Okay, you had a question, Raheem?
Yeah. I'm on the same page as you're on. I'm trying to add my server,
Okay,
but it says I can't.
right? Okay, let me finish walking through the rest of this, and I want you to
Okay.
download the 2103 while we're waiting, okay?
Okay.
All right. because I'm going to uninstall my version and then try the 2103 right in front of you. And hopefully a lot of this stuff will be simpler, right? So one of the things that I did was I pulled here. So I want you to notice I'm on the all connections option right here. But if I fix the login, which is important because it's going to connect to your server using ThinkPad Owner, it's going to say, hey, you don't have permissions. Does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
The owner account that I have on my ThinkPad is not the admin account I set up on my server. On my server, I have a spare account. I call it spare, right? They're still on the same work group and they have suitable names, but the point is I have to fix this by using manage as, and then I go up here and I select server management, server manager, right? I select server manager, a whole series of things pulls up here. And I want to show you just how cool this is. I selected file and file sharing, right? And I want to set up a share. In just a minute, you're going to see that eventually when you click on the extensions, like you go up to here to go to settings, you're going to see that there are all these extensions for the tools that you can use in Windows Admin Center. And even the one for file and file management, it says, hey, there's an update available. And you click here, and then you have to click update, or nothing happens. So if you click over here, you have to select and then click update. And eventually, when everything's finished updating, there's one for virtual machine management, updates management. You should get all of those, right? This is where I was talking about adding your server, and then you change the credentials. So you click manage as, and then you put in std srv1. In my case, your server's name is going to be different, a backslash, and then the name of the admin account that you use on your server to log in. That's what you're putting in here. You're going to put in your password, and then you're going to check the box that says use these credentials for all connections. Okay, everybody with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Once you do that, I go back to files and file sharing. Now it's showing me all the goodies. It's showing me the administrative share, right? And this and the it's called the sysvol share. So there's an administrative share for the system volume, and then there's an administrative share for the root of the C drive. And those are set up when the operating system is installed. You'll notice that these are kind of vulnerable. A lot of people don't know it, but if you know the name of a machine and you know how to connect to a share, you can just put $$ and you're connected to their C drive. We're going to show you how that works in just a minute. In any case, I want to use file and file sharing on my Windows Admin Center in Server Manager to create a share on my server. On my server, I have a directory called temp. So I'm gonna exit to the command line, and I'm gonna go ahead and back up a minute. I'm in the root. I went to change directories to the root of the C drive, and I'm gonna issue the directory command because I want to see what's there. I have a temp folder. I want to create a temp share. Now, if you don't have a temp folder on your server, you can create it by just using the command make directory md space and then temp and hit enter, and you'll have the same setup. So I want you to remember that you can create the temp folder with a command if you don't have one yet. When I come over here, though, on my laptop, I don't want to have to do any character-based stuff if I can help it. So I put in a new file share. I put the folder location. By folder location, they mean the path. So that's C:\temp. And as soon as I hit enter, it's gonna suggest the name temp without the $. I want you to understand there's a couple of things you have to change for this to work well, unless you want to be that poster child for how not to set up a server right so the world hacks it. The first thing I want you to do is you never create file shares on a server to set up resources for people to access. That's what you're doing when you set up a share. You're establishing resources people can access across the network. I'm going to put a $sign here. It means that when I'm browsing, when someone's browsing on the same network and they go to network, when they go to that machine, they won't be able to see the share when they double click on it. If I click into here and I start to double click on these systems, I can start to see what resources have been shared on those, right? And that's what happens with network browsing, is that people can just go there. So you're always going to want to put a $sign there. Hackers love browsing that way. This share permission for everyone full control is terrible. The default share permission is terrible. You're going to click that X and remove it. You're going to click add. And we're going to add the permission for the administrators group. So anyone who's an administrator on my server will be able to access what's in there. I'm going to take the offline files option and change it from manual to all, and I'm going to enable SMB. Okay. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to click on groups. Here's the option. I'm going to select local instead of Active Directory. I'm going to type in the word administrators, and when I click search, I'll see it display down here. That's how I know I'm connected properly. I'm going to click add. And then I'm going to check this, and it says, oh, hey, to share this, clients must support SMB3. If you don't select this option, basically, when this stuff travels across the network, people can sniff what's being accessed and shared and get a copy for themselves. It's very bad. So make sure you check that box and you say full. Any questions so far?
Nope.
So for your solution, you're going to use this tool after you set it up to share the temp folder to the administrators on that system, right? Anybody who's an administrator on your server, they can access that. And the cool part is, once you're done, it'll show here on the stand. So I'm looking at this from my laptop, right? So I'm sitting on my laptop and I go, oh, my server has a temp folder, it's shared, but it's a hidden share, so people can't just see it. There's the UNC path, standard SRV1, ... It's encrypted, which means it's protected, right? And so I'm ready to try it. I'm ready to try this on for size. I go to my laptop, and now I'm on my laptop. I select where it says this PC. It changes the menu up here. When I click this PC, it selects the computer ribbon, and the map network drive option appears. Otherwise, it doesn't show. I'm going to hit the pull down and select map network drive. Can everybody see this?
Yeah.
Okay. At that point, I'm going to select the S drive, because I'm going to say, well, this is my server. This is my server drive. You know, this is a directory that I'm using on my server for resources, so my laptop doesn't have to store the files and directories and music and movies. I'm going to put all that on my server, right? I'm going to run my own little system, kind of a media server for my house, which is a really cool idea. So I'm going to type in here under folder // standard server 1 std srv1 / temp $, and I'm going to check the box that says connect using different credentials. That's really important. When I click finish, it's going to prompt me for those credentials, and I have to use the spare password I use on my server to log in on my server. In this window, I'm going to check the box that says remember my credentials, and then it's going to let me in there. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Now the coolest thing happens. I get a new drive on my laptop. It's called drive letter S. So now I have drive letter C on my laptop, but I have drive letter S. Where is that actually sitting? Oh, on my server. right?
That's cool.
Yeah, so now I've just connected to my server, and I did this all with a GUI. I didn't use complicated PowerShell commands. I'd be pulling my hair out all afternoon learning 57 PowerShell commands to make all that happen. Instead, what I did was I created, just to prove things, on my laptop, I opened up the S drive. I created a new text file called Punch Buggy, and then I entered the text tag, you're it, and I saved it. Then I went back to my server, and I thought, well, if that worked, I'm going to see Punch Buggy sitting on my server. So I went to the command prompt, changed directories to temp, listed a directory of the temp right here. Here's Punch Buggy. I used the more command, and I want you to see this. Because there's a space in the name Punch Buggy, Punch space Buggy, I put the name in double quotes. So I said more Punch Buggy. That displays the contents of punchbuggy.txt on the screen. I'm on a server that doesn't have a GUI. It's a nightmare for the average hacker to get on there to make sense of anything. They have to know how to use a lot of character-based commands, right? They can't just open a GUI and open Notepad and start hacking stuff, changing all sorts of settings. It's not as easy for the garden variety hacker to get into a character-based server, right? Because they don't have a slick GUI to change a bunch of stuff and wreak havoc. But for people who actually need it for a real resource, basically on my laptop, I'm in there and I'm working on my server right there, which I think is really cool. Now, I told you about adding your own account there. That's going to help. I did want to tell you that if you try to use the computer management option instead of server manager, and then you try to connect to STD SRV, it says, hey, this is not a PC, this is a server. So on this pull-down menu, when you're using Windows Admin Center, you can manage other Windows 10 machines with computer management. If you try to manage a server with computer management, it's going to say, hey, this isn't a PC, it's a server. In which case you hit the pull-down and use Server Manager. What am I telling you? You can manage clients, laptops, PCs, workstations, Xbox, all that right here, computer connections, using computer management. When you get inside there, it's shocking how much detail you can, and the changes you can make. For example, right, one thing you can do is you can go into the groups and users, and you can create new user accounts, you can delete user accounts, you can change their group membership. Anything and everything you would otherwise do on that system, you can do from this screen. And you can create, once you have these different tools open, you can click a button and then it becomes a separate window. So you can have all these management windows open. Let's take a short breather. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Raheem, do you want to share your screen and try to get past that point on yours?
Yes, that'd be nice.
Okay, and then if you get stuck, let's just call it what it is, and then do you have a copy of the 2103?
Yeah, I already installed it.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You installed the 2103?
Yes.
Not the 2009?
No.
Okay. All right then. Let me stop sharing. And now you share. Does anyone else have any other questions?
No.
So I just went through some trouble to set up a folder, a directory that I'm going to share my resources with. And when I get a system that's nearly perfect, it's updated, I've done all the graphics, used all the graphical tools to configure it and get it just right, I can use a command called sysprep, and then that'll create a copy of that machine that I can use to reproduce 100 other systems like a photocopy machine. The only catch is after you run sysprep, you got to use another tool called DISM to capture the image. All right, so I see here you're on there. You did select the certificate, right? There's a little blinky in your upper right corner with the notification. Select that. No, not there.
There.
Right there, yeah. And are you in Edge?
Yes, I'm in Edge.
Okay. So it says error connecting to remote server localhost failed. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and you said you just walked through the installation, right?
Yeah, I just installed it.
Okay. You ran all your updates, right?
Yes.
Because there's a new cumulative update for February 2021. Hit your start menu and then hit the settings and then hit updates. Oh, dude, it says Windows isn't active.
Oh yeah.
Well, some things aren't going to work because if you're licensed. See where it says cumulative? Look,
Cumulative.
update preview for Windows 10, 20H2, download and install. Okay.
But did it? I did this 2 weeks ago though.
Yeah, this is another one. This is
Okay.
this is a fix from February for the 20H2 that was loaded in January.
Okay.
And you know, a lot of things that weren't working so well started working. I'm guessing they've been getting a lot of criticisms. One of the things you need to do is to figure out how to get your Windows license activated. So did you use like a bootleg copy to set this up on a separate machine?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, some things, I'm just going to be honest with you, some things just aren't going to work. And you'll get error codes on your screen, and when you call Microsoft and say, hey, why isn't your stuff working? Or you do a search for it, they're going to find out the reverse IP address and location of people who search for those errors because it's an indication that your license is barfed. And then sometimes if that happens often enough from the right address, they come looking for you. True story. Some kids in Brazil were doing this. They had a company, a tech upstart.
Uh-huh.
Microsoft came down to Rio de Janeiro and they got fined $110 million and some of them went to jail.
Oh my God.
Well, they were copying Windows and putting them on machines and giving away free copies of Windows.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, there was a computer shop that was doing the same thing. They got pinched. Some of them went to jail and they were fined like millions of dollars. I understand that, you know, everybody's doing their best to make do with the resources they have, but there are lots of ways to get very inexpensive licenses from Windows, especially if you're a student. So if you'd like to entertain a sideline conversation for that at any point, let me know.
No problem.
Okay.
I would like to get that as well because I have a PC that I'm using my desktop. I have to switch to my laptop because my desktop was a home built, but I didn't get to activate it.
Right. Okay. Well, so if you have a legitimate copy of an older version of Windows, a lot of times that will qualify for an upgrade version of Windows 10. And you can get those online from Amazon for, I don't know, $60, $75, but it'll, ask you to insert the disk So it can check to see that you do have a copy of Windows, right? And it could be an old Windows disk from an old laptop that your uncle gave you, and it's not even running anymore, right? And so that's part of the challenge is to use like upgrade options. If you replace a hard drive or you replace a motherboard on a home-built system, so let's say you're into white box computers, you build your own, right? So you go to newegg.com and you get custom parts and you build your own system. If you build your own system and you have a new motherboard or a new hard drive, you're entitled to just basically purchase a copy of the operating system for a new computer, which, you know, if you specify those options when you purchase, it's less if you're doing it for a new system. All right, so it's downloading. All right, if you could stop sharing.
All right.
I'll go ahead and what I'm going to do now is work my process with the new version. So I'm going to go here first to Control Panel. And I'm going to uninstall the 2009 version that's in here, which is Windows Admin Center, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to uninstall that because that's the 2009 version. So now it's gone. Now I'm going to use the new one, the 2103. So when you finish getting this working, it says, oh, hey, you should install this one. You don't have to, some of the new enhancements are, oh, you don't have to separately update each of the extensions. They'll automatically update, and whenever there's a new version of the Windows Admin Center, it'll automatically fix itself. And, you know, the whole time I was thinking, wow, I spent part of the day just updating each of these extensions. So they'd work right. Right, so I've checked the box. I scroll up and down because I'm just superstitious that way. Oh, so this is a new version, and I guess it's like a preview version maybe. Required diagnostic data, required and optional, right? So application health. I'm gonna turn this up. They love getting more data, and I'm doing this to try their stuff. All right, so I'm going to click next. I'm going to select the second option, but not the third one. I'm going to leave the port 6516. And I've changed my default browser to Edge. This is going to install. By the way, I had a link on my desktop and it disappeared when I uninstalled it, right? So it's going to the portal site. While I'm on my server, I'm going to create a new folder called stuff. Okay, everybody with me?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to make a directory called stuff, and I'm going to issue the directory command so I can see that stuff has been created. And now that I have a folder called stuff, when I get my Windows Admin Center configured, I'm going to use that graphical tool to share stuff like I did temp, and then I'll put something in it for my laptop. Okay. There are huge updates playing out for all Apple products today. iPhones, iPads, massive.
Oh, it's working now, by the way. It can find my server.
Yes. Yeah, I think sometimes it just has to sit and think for a while.
Okay.
So I'm going to share. So while this is running, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to share my screen and tell you about SysPrep while we're waiting, okay?
Okay.
So give me 1 second here to get on Zoom with my iPad.
So, did you hear about the whole GameStop thing in the stock market?
I heard that GameStop became very popular and then they started blocking stuff.
Yeah, apparently, people were playing the hedge funds who tried to play them, and then they end up paying the people billions of dollars.
Right.
Yeah, like my brother made about 1.2 million.
Your brother made 1.2 million?
Yeah, and my friend who he made 11 million.
Really?
Yeah, it's and then they got me into it, so I have a little change here and there, but nothing like them.
Well, you know, there's a famous guy named P.T. Barnum. He said a sucker is born every minute.
Huh?
Have you ever heard of Barnum and Bailey's Circus?
Yes, this sounds familiar.
That's the same Barnum that was the partner that started Barnum and Bailey's Circus. And one of his famous quotes was, "There's a sucker born every minute," you know. And when you think about it, there's a lot of like novelty shows at a circus, right? Like the hairy lady and the guy that swallows a sword, and there's all these acts, magic acts, clown acts, and so on. And as long as it's entertaining, right, and people are willing to pay to see it, his
Uh,
attitude was, well, there's a sucker born every minute.
uh,
So in your textbook, yeah, so what happened with GameStop is that the market was artificially um, inflated, and then there was a huge rush to get in on it because they thought, oh, I'm going to get rich. So everybody poured their money in there. And then
yes.
once the price of the stuff went up, the people who bought early that started the panic sold all their shares, and they bailed out with the value of that resource before other people caught on with what was happening. And that's one reason why the markets tried to clamp that down, because there were going to be a lot more people that lost their shirts before the day was over.
Yeah, like I've been reading all these stories that some people like put their whole college tuition into the stock. Some people took more
Yeah,
mortgages.
it's bad. All right, so in your textbook it talks about SysPrep. And one of the things that I want to tell you is that once you get comfortable using graphical tools to configure and to complete the setup of an important system, you're talking about a system that potentially hundreds or thousands of users would access, right? Um, when you're working for something that lasts, you want multiples of that. We talked about clustered systems, right? What we're saying is that you don't just want to create one system that hundreds of users depend on. You want to create one, get it right, and then you want to create multiple copies of it and use them together in a cluster. So when one of them dies, you just build more, you just roll out more machines, right? You know, you have 5 copies of this thing in a server cluster. 2 of them die because they're attacked. 3 of them are still going, and you basically use the image to push 2 more out there. So what you're doing is creating redundancy, failover, right? Fault tolerance is another word for it. So if there's a fault with one of the systems, there's multiples of these things. SysPrep is the tool that you use to create massive numbers of identical systems, or at least systems that are configured in a similar fashion. One of the things that you need to understand, though, is that sysprep generalizes it generalizes the system that you prepare using sysprep. It removes the security identifier. At the bottom of the page, does everybody see security ID?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a unique security ID whenever you install an operating system. It's like the fingerprint of that operating system. And if you're going to mass produce for a quick rollout, rapid rollout, okay, I have to build 200 new versions of Office 365 with the latest version of Windows 10. How do I do that on 200 systems in a single afternoon when people go home early? How do I do that? Well, you use sysprep after you get one just right, and then you push 199 more copies of it out. And when those screens come up, you know, you plug in the names of the workstations and the users on there, and then basically they get a new security ID. So the whole point of using sysprep is to remove the SID or the GUI, you know, it's GUI ID, right? SID/GUI ID. So that as these new systems come online, the domain or the enterprise that you're working in, the network you're on, doesn't get confused. Oh, hey, I've got 100 new systems, but they're all the same system. You know, so you have a single message that you need to send to that one system. Which one does it go to? And then, you know, the network crashes. So that's why this prep is so important. Let me say that again. When you're automating something you have just right for a good reason, you're going to use sysprep first, then you're going to capture that image. After sysprep, you're going to use DISM to capture that. Then you can push it out and roll it out fast. Any questions about what we've just shared?
No.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and stop my sharing from the one machine. And then let's check on this one. So it's telling me, hey, remember to use the admin center. I'm going to say finish. Down here, it's going to ask me what should I pick. Now here's something that I found helps to prime the pump also. Does everybody see certificate information?
Yeah.
So this tool, Windows Admin Center, is using a certificate to identify itself when it's connecting to other clients in a local neighborhood. It's good to go to the certificate information, then go to details, then get a copy of the certificate. Use the wizard, export the certificate, put it in a place where it makes sense. I said Windows Admin Center or WAC. That's the name I gave it. And I copied that certificate. I'm going to do the same thing again because this is a different installation of that software, and it's created a new certificate with this implementation. It's not the same. If I have to, I can import this certificate on other machines, so that's in the certificate inventory or certificate store, and the other machines will recognize, oh, my laptop. Yeah, I've got one. I've got a certificate for that. It's going to prompt me if I want to replace it. I'm going to say yes. Does everybody understand what I just did there?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm exporting a copy of the certificate in case I need to import it. I'm going to go ahead and select this and then click OK. It's going to load. It shows my, oh yeah, so new in this release, it's going to update automatically. Yay! Events tool redesign, that's huge. So when you have something going on with the system, you want to know what's going on, you look at the event log. That's very important. This is also important. Install and manage Internet of Things. devices, right, on Linux and on Windows. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, release notes, that's nice to know, but I don't really care about that. I want to collapse that. So give us our feedback, documentation. If I need more information, that's great. That's my local host. I need to connect. So I'm going to add servers, not a Windows PC, but a server. And I have to do this and wait for it. Everybody see what happened there? There was a little
Yeah.
sorted. If I got ahead of myself and then tried to click add, it wouldn't work. The only problem is, look, I'm managing it with my own login account from the laptop. That's not going to work. I need to select this. I'm going to manage as. I'm going to use another account. I'm going to call it spare. That's the account that I'm using from the other side. I'm going to enter my password. I'm going to use the credentials all the time.
Mine says add with credentials and then add. Mine says add with credentials and add.
You mean your screen looks different than this?
Yeah, right where it says continue is it says add with credentials, add, and then cancel.
Okay. Well, can you put your server information in there?
Yeah.
Okay. So now what I'm going to do is run up here, instead of all connections, I'm going to put server manager. And then I'm going to select standard server, and then I'm going to click connect. There's a scary amount of information I can, this is my server now. I'm viewing this machine through this GUI. And you see right now that, you know, there's all sorts of useful information about the network activity, the CPU. I basically get a task manager view of the machine, right? I can track how much disk activity is going on. I can shut it down or restart it. That's really cool.
Yeah, I've seen the same screen.
Here's the other thing that's really cool, the files and file sharing. If I'm connecting fresh for the first time using this new version of the tool, it should show my temp folder I've already set up. So if I look at file shares instead of files, it should show the shares that I have set up. And you see that I have my temp folder. I'd like to create a new share. I'm going to call this, what was it, stuff? Right?
Yeah.
And see how it suggested the share name stuff? If I leave it like that, I'm going to be able, when people are browsing the network, they're going to see stuff. They're going to be able to open it and see what's in it. I don't want that. I'm going to put a $sign on it. That default permission is horrific. I'm going to get rid of it. But I'm going to add administrators as a group. So I'm going to search for this. It's the administrators group. And it's not an active directory, it's local. So I'm going to type in administrators again. Then click search. It's going to search the local computer for the administrators, the local group called administrators. And it does exist. I'm going to click add. Okay. And then add. Wait a second. Yeah, I had to do this more than once. Let me search for the local user called spare. think maybe I didn't select it and that was the problem before. I'm going to use group and then administrators like I intended previously. I have to spell it correctly or it won't find it, obviously. I'm going to hit search. I'm going to select it and then I'm going to add. See what happened there? I didn't click on it.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have full control. The offline files, I'm going to change from manual to all. What that means is that the drive letter I connect on this side, when files are updated, it's going to pull those across automatically. It's a very cool feature. Did everybody understand what I just said there?
No, could you repeat it? I'm sorry.
Right now I have a drive share that I set up on my previous folder called temp.
Okay.
If I change things on the server in that temp folder, by checking that other option, it's going to update. It's going to pull those changes across to my laptop so that they're always updated on my laptop automatically. That's why I need to enable the SMB encryption, and then the advanced settings I'm going to say, yeah, full, enabled, and all. I'll say create. So I just created a folder called stuff. If I go into here and I go to stuff, and I pull a directory, there's nothing in there. Can everybody see? 0 bytes?
Yeah.
Right. But if that worked right, I should be able to go here to this PC, go to computer, map a drive, connect to, and I'll call this, yeah, I'll call this the M drive. This will be my money drive. My stuff drive, my stuff directory holds all the important, we'll call that the money drive. SRV1, right? \stuff with a $sign. I'm going to check the box. I'm going to say finish. Now I need to type in my credentials for the spare account on the server. I'm going to select remember my credentials and then say OK. Yeah, I had to do this more than once before. There we have it. So now I have an M drive alongside an S drive. I'm going to put something in there. If I'm connected with the right password from the server, I should be able to create a new folder. This one I'm going to call Yowza. How's that? Yowza. Everybody with me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've just, let's see if that works. If I repeat the command for a directory, I have a file called Yowza now. And if I want to see what's in it, I use the more command. And it basically takes the output of that file and puts it on the screen.
Okay.
So, what do you think? This is the one that I think is most important here. I want everybody to see this. So I have a server and I need to use it for a specific purpose. Just setting up file shares is great. It's always good to share resources on a server. That's what they're there for. But let's say I want to do DNS. I want to set this server up as my own DNS server because I don't want to use the DNS servers the internet service provides. That's not fast enough. I want to use my own DNS server. And I'm going to create it right here and right now. And I'm going to use it to browse the web. You're going to see in just a second. I'm going to use it to browse the web. Everybody with me?
Yeah.
I'm going to put in DNS. I'm going to select the checkbox and then put install. And it's checking to see if there are any other dependencies, features, or functionality that need to be added. And it says, hey, this is going to be installed. I'm going to check the box that says reboot it if we need to. I'll say yes. Now it's installing DNS. Now here's the fun part. I'm going to go into here on my network setting. Are you with me?
Yep.
And I'm going to do something really naughty. I'm going to go into my adapter properties. And on my Wi-Fi, I'm going to take out my DNS. I'm basically going to remove this. Okay? So I'm saying I want to use my own DNS server, but I'm going to put a blank entry in here. And I'm going to say OK, and then OK, and close. And then I'm going to do something really horrific. I'm going to flush my DNS. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So I've just emptied my DNS cache. So what does that mean? I'll show you what that means. If I try to find a new website, well, it found that. Basically, let's do this. So if I try to ping Google from here, oh, it found Google. So I have Google Chrome loaded, and again, that browser kind of includes its own DNS entries. But let me try that command again. I'm going to flush DNS, and normally what I'd do is disable and re-enable the wireless connection to make sure that that change takes effect. If I do that, we're going to lose our connection. But basically what I wanted to show you is that this role is installed now. Does everybody see it's installed?
Yeah.
Okay. So the cool part is I can configure DNS so that I can use this for my DNS server. I can go to here and put in 192.168.1.116. And that's my new DNS server. Let's make sure that took. Yep. So even though I'm getting a new IP address automatically, if I flush my DNS and then I renew, I'm gonna renew my connection. The screen's gonna disrupt a second. Does everybody know what I'm doing?
Yeah, you're requesting for a new IP.
Right. I should get the same one. I got 115. Right. So I should be able to connect to that server, this server, and then configure it, configure the DNS using the DNS tools out of Windows Admin Center. So I've added the role in the feature. I'm going to add something called caching, DNS caching, and that's going to add the information that's needed for my system here to function in the role of an internet service provider's DNS server. And then it'll be working. It is 5 minutes after our class time, so I'm not going to demonstrate that piece right now. But that's how easy it was to create a DNS server using Windows Admin Center. At a minimum, I'm going to want you, oh, by the way, if you click on the storage option, I'm connected to STD server. It'll tell you information about the physical disk on my server, but then it'll also tell you about the volumes. There's a C drive and a D drive. It'll tell you how much free space, all that kind of stuff, what the status is. So everything that you need basically to configure and then to duplicate your systems efficiently is all available right here. And at a minimum, what I want you to do is to set up a file share on your server like you saw me do, and then connect to it from your own machine so that we see that it's a network drive like this.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and finish capturing the recording of the session. I'll put it out there for your reference for your solution. You need to finish the solution, and when I post the study guide, if you finish reading the one chapter, I think it's chapter 2 of your textbook, and read the study guide, finish your solution. As long as you finish your first attempt of the assessment before we come back from spring break, we're good. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns before we close for the day?
Yeah, like all the videos that you've recorded, are you gonna put it up like later?
Yes, I am. Right now, the connection I'm using at my condo is kind of sketchy, but if I have to, I'll put it on the system at the office and push it from there.
Okay.
I did get access to my office recently in RT Park, and that's a game changer because there's much better upstream bandwidth. I can push our recordings out a lot faster.
Okay.
Now,